Hello and welcome to the Vegan Luna podcast. I'm here with an incredible activist that I have been really inspired. I watched a speech that he did on the global strike that we had fairly recently, and it was very, very interesting because a lot of people know about the impacts of the environment right now. They see the rainforest burning, they see the ice caps melting, they see the ocean rising, they see the acidification, they see the desertification, and all those sort of things that are really plaguing the environment, the massive hurricanes, the massive floods. And we had a huge strike recently, and a global strike. They estimated about 4 million people were in this strike. And not a lot of people know exactly what they can do to impact the environment. And some people probably didn't even know what they're striking for. They know like, hey, I care about the environment. I want to get involved. How can I help? Hey, do this strike. But what some people probably didn't realize is that there's a bigger impact that you can make on the environment. And it's through your diet. It's through what you eat. And so the man I'm talking to right now, the man we're sitting down with right now, had to me, a very inspiring speech about how animal agriculture and eating animals and cheeseburgers and that sort of stuff really truly affects the environment. And I was really inspired, and I had to have him on because I love talking about the environment. But before we get started and before we get into that, I want to ask you 5 quick vegan questions. That's how we start the show off. All right, so question number 1. What do you think of the recent global strikes? Since we're talking about that, what did you think about that?
I think it's good that people are becoming aware of serious issues. I think it's great that these strikes are globally unifying. So, it doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, black, white, what language you speak, what nationality you are. Like it's a globally unifying thing, and I think that it's great because people are actually off of their asses and away from their computers and their phones, and there's a free flow of ideas, and people are talking about issues that they wouldn't normally talk about because they're being exposed to different people. So I think it's good that it's happening. And it's good that people are sharing it around the social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And so question number 2, what do you think it will take for us to get to a vegan world? What do you think that's going to take?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of like the rule of 3.5. It's a lot of the work is done by, I believe this girl's name is Erica Chenoweth. She studied past social justice movements and, actions of the past with regards to suffragettes and the civil rights movement. Basically, it's once you get 3.5% of the population doing continued actions and continued nonviolent demonstrations towards a certain goal, that's when you will reach a tipping point of whatever they're pushing for goes. So there's probably already 3.5% vegans in certain locations, but these people aren't activists and they're not out, protesting. They're not out raising their voice. So we need to inspire these passive vegans to get involved. That's what I think we need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think a spirit of this podcast is helping to inspire others. It's talking to people like you. It's talking to people that are out there, that are active, that are walking the talk and doing what it takes, and hearing different ways that you could do it. Sometimes people get really scared of the word activist, like, oh my gosh, I have to be a protester and out in the street screaming meat is murder. Like, sure, like that is a part of it. But there's so many other things that you could do, from social media to cooking to teaching to, YouTube or podcast. There's really a plethora of things that you could do for sure. All right. So question number 3, who are your top 3 favorite current activists?
I'm going to have to go with and I'll probably catch a lot of shit from people because he's kind of a controversial figure. But Gary Yourofsky. Well, I guess he's not active, but I gotta plug him because it was his speech that flipped me vegan, and I'm sure we could talk more about that later. I'm really inspired by a lot of the women in the movement, and I think that we need to prop them up because the face of the movement is very white cis male. I don't know if there's any way to get around that, but I'm really inspired by some of the DXE ladies, Priya Sahani, who disrupted Jeff Bezos earlier this year. He's facing felony charges out in Sonoma County, California. She's just fearless, and I really like what she's doing and how she presents herself. And recently, I'll plug Cheyenne Denner, goes by Naturally Cheyenne on social media. She just led a bunch of activists into one of the largest pig slaughterhouses in France, and they faced some violence from the slaughterhouse workers in that action. And that takes some serious gall, if you will, to put yourself out there in these types of actions. So I'm all about the lady power in the movement right now, and I think we need more of that, more people of color, more people that are not me that we need to be featured and we need to be talking about.
Yeah, you just need to have a seat, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I know. As I'm on the show talking, but yeah, it seems to be something that some people are talking about within the community, and some people are upset about. So, and I get it. But I also don't know if there is any way around it. Just with the way the world is. It's a white male world. That's what was built, and it needs to be dismantled. So I think one of the ways that we can dismantle that is to prop these ladies up, prop people of color up that are doing the same kind of work.
Yeah, and ultimately end speciesism,
Yep.
as many believe is the root of all discrimination.
Yep, 100%.
Sure. All right, excellent. So next question: what is the hardest thing about being vegan?
Well, I don't really deal with it much anymore, but I did when I first went vegan. I first went into activism, was like dealing with just a lot of the blowback and the bullshit from family and longtime friends. And I've kind of set some pretty hard boundaries now, so I don't really deal with that much anymore. But initially it is scary, and there's a lot of gaslighting, and a lot of people make you feel badly for doing what you're doing and saying what you're saying and how you're saying what you're saying. It's like damned if I do, damned if I don't type of thing. But at least initially, I think that dealing with blowback from people that you've known a long time can be hard. But once you move beyond that, set some boundaries, it's good. You attract good people, you attract positive vibes, and it's not something you should worry about in the long term.
Yeah, really, in the long term, it has nothing to do with the animals and what we're fighting for. And you also really realize who your real friends are.
Yeah.
If someone is they're not my friend anymore because I don't want to harm animals and I want to help other people to not do it. It's like,
right.
Why were we friends in the first place? I don't even know why. It's pretty crazy. Right. Yeah. All right, cool. I definitely agree. Social pressure, I think, is the word that you're looking for. There is very true, and it can be very tough if you're very attached to certain people and you don't want to hurt them or hurt their feelings or stuff like that. It's gonna really slow down the progress. And I agree with you. I always tell people that is the hardest thing, is the social pressure, and that's why even today I had someone that was asking me about, I want to give up dairy. I finally going to do it. I've been listening to everything that you're saying, and I'm so happy for you, but I'm so hesitant just to give everything that they're asking for. I have a few more questions. Like, why do you want to give up dairy? Like what's the reason? Have you seen the videos? Have you seen what happens? Like, I don't want to just give you a great recipe and then you cook some good meal and then 3 weeks later, you're I guess it's not for me. That's not what I want, So it's about understanding fully. So it's always, even I saw Greta on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and when he asked, well, what could people do about it, and you're like, yes, tell them what to do. But really, her answer was honestly a very good answer, and it's really what I tell a lot of people is do. Right? She said specifically, do the research. That's what she said. Do some research. Look into this. Like you'll find a lot of the answers that you're looking for. And I think that it was a good answer. I mean, she could say a lot of things, but I think it was a good answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So next one I have is last question. So what is something that you thought was going to be hard about going to vegan, but it actually really wasn't that hard? It was kind of like maybe pretty simple, but you thought this would be a big hurdle for me.
I mean, just like the food thing, I mean, I hear that all the time. It's just so hard, or, I don't know what to eat or whatever. And it's like, fuck, for the first 2 weeks, I just ate beans out of a can. I ate a ton of bananas, before I started really cooking. Just eat raw stuff. It's not a big deal. It's a lot better to just eat some cheap meals than not pay someone to stab an animal. Just do the right thing. Yeah. So yeah, I would just say just eating in general. It's not as hard as you think. And depending on where you live, I mean, I don't want to get into the debate of the Impossible Burger or whatever, but fast food options are having plant-based options. Fast food restaurants are having plant-based options now. Mexican restaurants are some of my favorite places to order from. If I'm out and about, even the hole-in-the-wall, family-owned ones, you get veggie fajitas. Indian restaurants, a lot of the dishes are already vegetarian and can easily be made vegan. So it's just not difficult, and the whole convenience thing is just an excuse. So yeah, it's not hard. That's misconception.
Yeah, for sure. All right, great. So that's the quick vegan questions. Thank you very much. You did great. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are we talking to? Who is this guy?
My name is Curtis Vollmer. I go by Curtis Anthony on Facebook. That's just when I made Facebook back in college, that was the name, and I just hadn't changed it. So, God, I guess I could talk for a while, but I'm 32 years old. I went to school in Michigan, at Eastern Michigan University. I was a track and field athlete through college. I ran a 406 mile. I still run quite a bit. Yeah. Graduated in 2011, kind of just bummed around my college town for a couple of years. 2013, 2014, I took a volunteer position in Honduras teaching math and science. I went back to Michigan 2014, 2015 to I started working in phones. I realized I didn't really want to teach. Just wasn't a whole lot of money in it. 2015, 2016, I was living in Arizona, managing a store. And then I moved to Richmond, Virginia, which is where I live now, exactly 3 years ago for a job in the running industry. It was like a dream job for me. Just through some connections within the running industry. I worked for this company, Run Sign Up, for about 15 months. And I was fired shortly after going vegan for promoting veganism at work. Yeah. And yeah, I actually tried they offered me a lot of money to keep my mouth shut about the issue. They offered me $20,000 in severance to kind of just shut up and go away, which I turned down. So I've never been one to shut up about something if I thought it was wrong. And I didn't win that case. The legal system threw my case out on a filing technicality on my end. I'm not a lawyer. If I had to do it over again, I might be able to at least take it to court. But my case got thrown out. Kind of caused some storm with them online. They had to remove some of their Facebook reviews because I got the vegan community to gang up on them. I could talk about that whole thing with my old employer for quite a while. But yeah, I got fired in January of 2018 from my job in Richmond, and then pretty much the next 9 months, I had a bunch of money saved up from that job. I was just doing activism, traveling around, meeting people, and then for about the last year or so, I've been back selling phones. and doing activism in my spare time, you know. So that's kind of my life since college, if you will, looking dirty.
Yeah, and so you go by Skinny Vegan on Instagram. What's up with that?
So it used to be, I've been like a video gamer like off and on my whole life, and my gamer tag used to be Skinny Jeans, but it was GENES. For like the last 10 years, that was my gamer tag on Steam or Xbox or whatever. And, once I went vegan, I was like, I need to change this, so that was just the gradual, the progression of the social media handle, if you will.
All right, cool, brother. That's awesome. So I think that's really interesting. You went to Honduras. I'm sure that was an amazing experience, getting a chance to see other countries. I will be a huge advocate for. I've seen quite a few countries now, and anyone that hasn't been a chance to see a new country, and it gives you a whole nother perspective.
Yeah.
No matter where it is in the world. I mean, if you go to some place that's new, that's foreign, that you've only heard about or saw on a map, and you see the way people live and the way people treat each other and how culture is, it gives you a whole new profound perspective on the world. Even if it's just one new country, it just opens your mind to so many different things. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of even before I was vegan, one of the things that I advocate for when I talk to people, when I have like good discussions with them, is to always remain uncomfortable. Like if you get into a place where you're just comfortable and you're not really learning new things and you're not meeting new people and you're not being challenged on anything, that's like when you may as well be fucking dead, And that experience that I had in Honduras, it was like a huge culture shock for me when I first got there. And I almost actually left because I just thought it was kind of, it was just culture shock. It was textbook culture shock.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
And, actually, like while I was there, it was like 4 months after, I was like, hey, I'm going back in the middle of the year. This just isn't for me. And like the night before I was supposed to go back, I just like had an epiphany. I was just laying in bed and I was like, no, like it's only 6 more months. I'm here for a year. Like, suck it up. And I ended up staying, and it was, a great experience for me. And I've actually since went back and just to chill at the school and connect with the kids that I was teaching. And I got my scuba certification on the island off the coast. So
nice.
Yeah. Cool. Definitely recommend people to always kind of push their comfort zone, push their boundaries, and that's how you grow.
Yeah, excellent. So I want to know now. Tell me, why would you decide to cut out all animal products? Why are you going to be part of the 1% of people that aren't eating animal products? Why do you want to be different? Why do you want to make a change for yourself and for others? Why did you do that?
I mean, it was pretty much after I heard the term speciesism. Like I heard the term speciesism and heard it explained, and it just made complete sense. Like, yeah, that's discrimination. I don't support discrimination, so therefore I should probably be vegan. I didn't really have an argument against it. I didn't really feel like obviously we are part of the 1%, but I didn't really feel like it was like a huge change in my values. I mean, the values were already there. I just, we hear this all the time, align my actions with my values. So, I mean, I'm not doing this to be different. I'm not doing this to, rub people the wrong way. I'm, doing this for the animals, for the victims. It's really simple.
Yeah, and you said that you had seen the speech from Gary Yourofsky.
Yeah.
And was that one of the first times you heard that term, or where did it start? Like,
yeah, are you talking about like my journey to veganism?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. I've told the story a few times. So when I was living in Arizona before I moved to Richmond, where I am now, some buddies of mine had this like BLT night thing. You know what a BLT sandwich is?
Yeah, of course. Bacon, lettuce, tomato.
Bacon, lettuce, tomato. Every Tuesday night, my buddies used to have this BLT night in Arizona, in Flagstaff, where I was living. And it was a great time. Like, you know, it brought everyone together. You know, food is a social thing, and there were beers, and we had a hot tub, and yeah, it was super fun. And so I moved to Richmond and got in with the running community. Had a nice apartment there, and was like, yo, I need to bring this BLT night thing to Richmond. So yeah, I was doing that for about 6 months. In first Tuesday in November 2017, people are on their way over to my apartment for the BLT night. And I go to YouTube to like put on a playlist, like a mix of music, and the best speech you'll ever hear, Gary Yourofsky, comes across the feed. And I hit play. And I'm watching like 5 minutes of it, and I'm like, "Oh shit! Like this guy's good. Like this guy's like makes a lot of sense. I like the way he talks." And then people started knocking on my door, so I put the music on, had everyone in, had the BLT night. Everybody left. It's like 11 o'clock. I grab my laptop. I go lay in my bed, push play. It's like 12:30. The speech is over with. I'm laying in bed, I'm like, fuck. You know, and then woke up the next morning and that was it. Done instantly, overnight. So that's how that happened for me.
Yeah, that's it's very powerful. And when you think about that speech, the one thing I like about the speech the most is that it covers a lot of bases and it covers a lot of areas. So it isn't just like, you know, I'm going to talk about some health or I'm going to talk about the ethics or the environment. He really covers everything in that speech. And I even love the small part that he does where he talks about just some of the food. And he's just like, look, I like this one. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you shitty foods. I eat this. Like I've tried a bunch of bad ones. And I like his line where he's like, you ever had bad pizza or bad Chinese food, you know, or bad pizza or whatever? Like, of course, like there's bad vegan food, like absolutely. And so I love that part. And even just the food part and him just showing some of the items and you look at them and you just think like, okay, like I've never seen that one. And there's some, it's kind of old. So there's some older ones and obviously we've come a long way since then.
Sure.
But yeah, that speech is so powerful and so influential. And there was a little story I heard about how I think it was two guys and they were in Israel and they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. People need to hear this. They translated it into Hebrew and they really did everything they can to spread this message. And part of, I don't know if you've heard about Israel and like the vegan movement there.
Yeah. I think it's like the most vegan country in the world, right?
Yeah, it's like 10% or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's either that or Germany or I'm not sure. But they're way up there.
Yeah. And part of the biggest reason is because of that speech and how it is spread like crazy and the connection that they have to being victims, you know, and the connection he makes to the Holocaust. And then he was brought over there because people wanted to hear him.
I've watched all of his stuff, you know, and he was on that lecture tour and everything over there. He has a huge reason why Israel is the vegan Mecca, if you will. Yeah, great stuff.
I went to Tel Aviv, Israel, which is called the vegan capital of the world at the time. I don't know if it is now, but it was just amazing to see. I think one of the best burgers I had was there. They had this cheese that they make there, not in the restaurant. Like they make it in Israel. I don't even remember the name of it, but that cheese is still to this day the best vegan cheese I ever had. And some people say that the part of the reason that the vegan movement did so well there too is because in kosher you can't have like meat and dairy in the same meal or like combined. Like you can't just have a cheeseburger if you are Jewish, right? So because a vegan meat is not beef and vegan cheese is not dairy, you can have cheeseburgers as a vegan and get away with it. So it's a really, they believe that also helps, which is pretty interesting.
Well, yeah. Huh. I hadn't heard that. That is funny. That's interesting.
But if you have the chance to travel, I highly recommend Tel Aviv. Amazing, beautiful. People are so nice. It's right along the beach. It's just gorgeous. And it's relatively safe. I'm in the Middle East. I haven't seen any crazy things live since I've been here. It's actually, I don't even lock my door sometimes. It's safer than it's safer than the city I was living in, San Diego, in Kuwait.
Oh yeah.
Like no joke. I hear gunshots and sirens and the windows have bars on them. And that's San Diego. That's not like, it's not like Compton or whatever, or some other Chicago.
It's just so, like, the United States is just so segregated. Like, even within cities and neighborhoods, it's so segregated. So, which is sad, but the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's awesome. I love your story, and I like how simple it is, because it's not that complicated. I mean, I could tell my story in a long way, but if I really just boil it down, it's really just a couple simple things.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I was the same way. I went overnight. I watched What the Health. So that's what it was for me. Okay. I watched What the Health. I was super sick. And then I said, let me try this, tried it, got better. And I was like, why would I go back? Like, I feel so good. Right. So that's really how it happened for me, in a quick nutshell. So I want to hear about your big thing that you're doing right now is your activism. What are you doing for the animals, and how are you active? What are some of the activities that you do?
Man, I'll do like pretty much anything and everything. I organize, well, I've been kind of slacking recently, but I'm the community organizer for DXE in the Richmond area. So I'm a super proponent of the disruptions, the grocery store disruptions and restaurant disruptions, especially that coupled with social media. Some of these posts have a chance to go viral, and start a lot of conversations, and they rub people the wrong way. But that's the goal. Like if killing and eating animals was a normal thing to do, there would be no negative reaction. People wouldn't feel triggered. People wouldn't feel like you're attacking them or like they're doing something wrong, because if they weren't, then there wouldn't be anything there. So yeah, I really like the disruptions, especially coupled with social media. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you explain DXE to maybe some listeners that never heard DXE and why disruptions? Some people think, really quick, for the record, I'm all for DXE, like 100%. I haven't participated because it's not available yet in my area, but I'm going to 100%. And so I'm reading a book right now called This Is an Uprising. Have you heard of that book?
Yeah, I've heard. I haven't read it. I'm aware. It's about action, right?
Say it again.
It's about nonviolent direct action.
Yeah, exactly. It was recommended by That Vegan Couple, which they do a lot of good work. Yeah, I saw Natasha post it on her story, and I was like, I'm gonna get that one. That one looks interesting. But DXE, they center a lot of their action around that, and I just want to share what some people think. Some people think that is annoying. Some people think that is inconvenient. Some people think that it's ineffective. Whatever people think, I want you to kind of clear up kind of the purpose of that, and why that movement does so well.
Yeah, so DXE, for people that are, might be listening and might not be aware, stands for Direct Action Everywhere. They're an nonviolent grassroots organization that founded in Berkeley, California, and they have splinter chapters all over the world. And they draw heavily on tactics of past social justice movements and leaders such as Gandhi and Dr. King and the suffragettes. So they're partaking in nonviolent direct action. So, going into a grocery store, causing a scene, doing speak outs, holding signs. This is very confrontational, nonviolent though, obviously. And I think what made the most sense to me is that I've been out to Berkeley a couple times now for the big conference that they have every year, and they quote Dr. King, and he has this term called negative peace. And negative peace is peace or tranquility in the absence of justice. So you have people in a restaurant dining on body parts. This is a place where negative peace exists. It's peaceful, it's tranquil from the outside, but this is a place of violence. People are consuming death and violence. So when you're going into these establishments and doing these speak outs, you're just bringing that, injustice to the surface. It's already there. It's underneath. People are unaware of it. You're just bringing it up here. And now that it's up here and people are aware of it, they are now forced to take a side. They're now forced to, or at least think about the issue that they hadn't been thinking about. And yes, of course, there's always going to be probably more than half the vegan community that doesn't want to partake in these. It's just the way it is. But looking at the civil rights movement, the same shit was happening. Most of the people, and this is something that a lot of people think that like all black people were totally for Dr. King and totally for Malcolm X and their tactics. No, it was a very small percentage of people that were doing those sit-ins, that were doing those strikes. Like these were very brave people that were doing these. And even most of the other activists or civil rights campaigners were not partaking in these things. So we all know collectively, looking back on it and seeing photos of these sit-ins and seeing photos of these marches and these protests, we know 100% that these people were doing the right thing, right? Like these people were brave. They were the ones that made the change. They were the ones that, were in the media that got people talking. So there's no reason to think that this movement with animals would be any different. So we need to definitely support. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to partake in these actions, fine, I get it. Like it's not for everybody. Like do something else, and I'll talk more about other things that you can do. But don't shit on these people. You cannot do that. You have to support it. It really hurts the movement as a whole when you have vegans or activists telling other activists that what they're doing is wrong. Like that, we can't be doing that. So if you're not into the DXC stuff, if you're not into disruptions, if you're not into, really, forcing the issue, fine, don't do it. I'm not going to condemn you for not doing it, but don't condemn the people that are putting themselves on the line in these actions. So that's kind of my.
Yeah, because those are very high risk. You can be arrested. You can be assaulted. Even the one girl, I'm forgetting her name right now, but I'm sure you know, got shot at and was bleeding.
Yeah, Mia.
So yeah, Mythical Mia. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep.
And so like these things aren't easy, and it's not easy to do. And the least that we could do, the very least, is to support them and to share it and to spread the message and support it in any way we can. I definitely agree. All right. So what else do you do? So we got the DXE, and that's amazing. I love that.
So I have, one of my good buddies in the area is an organizer for Anonymous for the Voiceless. Another type of, it's not necessarily direct action per se, it's just a static street demo. I'm sure you're aware. If the people that listening are not aware of what Anonymous for the Voiceless is, it's basically a street demonstration where people are holding laptops and TVs displaying slaughter footage. And people walk by and people stop, and we try to have conversations with people and try to get them to lead themselves to the vegan conclusion on their own. These conversations are very powerful, especially, again, coupled with social media. If you have people, shooting video, this type of things. And I've recorded some of these conversations and have some of them on my YouTube and Instagram page. I'll also do some of my own interviews. I've got the VR headset with the Samsung phone, where it straps people into like a first person view of a pig or a chicken or a cow in a slaughterhouse. And I'll interview people while they do that. I've got some of those videos online. What else? Obviously, like the protests and the marches. I partake in those. But yeah, I mean, anything and everything, I'm in for it, and I support it. Again, everybody needs to support everyone in their endeavors, whatever they're doing. But even if like you're really shy, you don't want to do anything like that. Like you can be an activist just with social media, just sharing the videos from the slaughterhouses, and that's all it takes for some people. I've heard many people that went vegan after viewing a video that someone shared. So everybody can do something, and we should be doing something.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this last one, the most recent one, and what kind of action did you do in the global strike?
Yeah, so there was a climate strike. It was the first time ever in Richmond that like the Extinction Rebellion or Greta's movement had hit Richmond. So I was really excited about it. And I had like maybe 5 or 6 of my, vegan activist friends that showed up, and we had signs. We showed up beforehand, and I had some outreach cards, and we were walking around and having conversations with people about animal agriculture. We did the march, and then there were some speakers at the end. And I actually lended my megaphone to the people that were doing the speak outs, because they didn't have very good megaphone, and I have this like giant one that I have. So I gave the megaphone to the organizers, and then I pulled one of the organizers aside and was like, hey man, like I noticed like there's been some speakers before the march and during the march, and it's been like 3 people talking now. Is anybody going to say anything about, animal agriculture? And I wasn't sure if they were going to be like, what do you mean? Like, whoa. Or
like that guy in Cowspiracy when he's like, what about it? Like, what about animal? Like,
right, exactly. Like, I've just from like talking to other people, other activists, and seeing other stories, online, I've seen, it seems like a lot of the organizers for these things have no fucking clue the impact that animal agriculture has, which just totally boggles my mind. Come to find out, though, the guy is vegetarian that I was talking to, and he was like, hey man, we have this whole thing planned, and I'd love to connect with you, and I agree with you, something should be said, but we have everything already planned out, and we don't want to, and I get it. Like, if I was in his position, I probably would have done the same thing. Like, I don't know this guy, I'm not having him speak out at our thing, type of deal. So after all the speakers were done and people were, just about to just disperse and walk home, whatever, I grabbed a megaphone and did like a 90-second speak out about animal agriculture. I had an audience, and everybody there supposedly fucking gives a shit about the environment. So they're a prime audience to at least plant some seeds. And yeah, so I just did a quick speak out on animal agriculture and asked people to look into the issue, because the whole march they were just talking about fossil fuel industries and the corporations and this person and that person and that person. It's like, what about this person here? Like, we all have a part in this too. So yeah, I mean, anytime and all the time is a good time to speak out, to say the right thing, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
Fucking do it.
So tell me some of the things that you shared with them, and for people that don't understand that how animal agriculture does affect the environment. Tell us some of the things that you shared with the group that you shared in the past.
Yeah, I mean, like the speak out was only like 90 seconds long, but I talked about how deforestation, desertification, ocean dead zones, wild species extinction, world hunger, and all these issues are all directly a result of global animal agriculture, raising animals for food. I think one of the last statistics I saw is that like 60% of the animals on Earth are actually the animals that humans breed just to kill for food. and 36% is humans and 4% are wild free living animals. That's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane that we're clearing off all this land, all these forests, cutting down all these trees to make room for cows and pigs and chickens. It's fucking crazy. And people aren't aware of this. People don't know. They just buy the shit from McDonald's or Burger King or the grocery store and are completely oblivious. And it's not their fault. It really isn't. I mean, I was a victim of the system for 30 years of my life. But once you're aware, like, you can act on your awareness and you can make choices that reflect information, reflect knowledge, you know? So, I was just trying to plant some seeds. And as people were leaving, I had some outreach cards and I, gave them to people as they walked by. And for the most part, everyone was really receptive. And actually, I had to stop a couple times during the speaker because people wanted to cheer. So, yeah, it was good. It was good. And I actually had a longer conversation with one of the organizers on the way home. We talked for about 10, 20 minutes. And he's like, yeah, man, we should meet up. We have these meetings every 2 weeks where we talk about ways we can improve certain aspects of, what we're doing. And he admitted that he hadn't watched Earthlings and he hadn't watched Dominion. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what these documentaries are? He's like, yeah, I know, and I'm kind of just delaying it. I know that it's probably he said I should be vegan. I know that. So that's good that the one of the climate organizers in Richmond knows of this issue and is open to, he said he was open to hosting a screening with everybody of Cowspiracy and or Dominion, which is probably a lot further along than some of these other climate organizers or climate marches are. Like I said earlier, it seemed to be like there was a lot of places around the world where they weren't even talking about it, or they didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. I know that one of the huge climate studies that was done by the Oxford University, where they looked at the impact of animal agriculture and the environment and that sort of stuff. And one of the best studies that you could find out there, you just search the Oxford study, Oxford Animal Agriculture, or however you want to search for it.
Earthling Head always cites that one, yeah.
Yeah, one of the lead, or at least a few of the guys that were in charge of that operation went vegan because of the research that they found. So in the middle of research, they're like, holy we need to change because I don't want to be part of this anymore. But some people don't get it. And I want you to help them understand at least a little bit more. And they don't get it for multiple reasons, whether they haven't looked into it, they haven't thought about it. But let's just tackle something like, let's say, the rainforest. Why? How is animal agriculture connected to the rainforest?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Brazil is either number 1 or number 2 exporter of beef, which, beef is a societal euphemism for murdered cow flesh. And in order to export all of this beef, you need vast amounts of land, you need vast amounts of soy and wheat and whatever else you need to feed these animals, which means you have to destroy native rainforest where native people, humans live there, native animals, wildlife live there. And these trees that are being cut down are actually a carbon sink, which helps, keep our planet cool. So by eating beef or any animal products, because a lot of this wheat and soy and whatever is being grown in the Amazon is shipped around the world to feed the animals that people eat. When we're eating animal products, we are active participants in the destruction of our own planet, of the rainforest. So that's what people need to understand, and they need to understand that they can stop right now. they can stop right now and start helping. And it's so simple.
So the fires in the Amazon rainforest were there to clear the land because it's
Yeah.
faster and more effective and easier, right?
Yep.
And something that some people don't know about the trees, and you talk about the carbon sink, is not only do they absorb the carbon and they store it, and the longer that they're alive, obviously the more carbon they have stored through their lifetime and their life cycle. And they could tell how old a tree is by drilling in and seeing like the circles of the carbon, right? The carbon dating, right? And so when the tree is burned or destroyed,
it releases
carbon
all
is
that.
released, right? So not only is the fire and the smoke and the burning and those gases going into the atmosphere, but also all the carbon that's going into the atmosphere. And we're nearing our limit when it comes to carbon and greenhouse gases. And what also happens too that some people don't understand is can you explain maybe how cows even produce a greenhouse gas at all?
Yeah, I mean, cows. I'm not 100% sure if it's the farting or the belching or the combination of the two, but cows release a ton of methane, which is just as bad, if not worse, than carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. In like I was saying earlier, 60% of the animals on the earth are cows and pigs and chickens. So like we can stop this by just not breeding them into existence. And the first thing that we need to do to not breed them into existence is to not pay for it, to not put a demand on the products.
Yeah. Is there anything else that maybe strikes you as highly alarming when it comes to the effects of animal agriculture and the environment that maybe you want to share?
Yeah. Probably like seeing the waste pits, smelling it. So one of the first actions that I partook in, I was actually arrested like 2 months after going vegan. Was in Tar Heel, North Carolina. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but it's the largest pig slaughterhouse in the world. Eastern North Carolina has like one of the highest population density of slaughterhouses, hog operations. And just being outside of this facility where 33,000 pigs are killed every day, the smell of it is so horrible. It's so terrible. It just smells like death in feces, in urine. It's just combination. It's so horrible. And the other issue that we haven't talked about, and I can kind of be tied in with environmentalism. Yeah, so another issue that's tied in with this, I'm not sure if you heard the term environmental racism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like specifically in Eastern North Carolina, these slaughterhouse operations are disproportionately placed in minority areas, minority Black, minority Hispanics, where these people are then working in these facilities. These people are subjected to airborne diseases from the shit that's just sprayed everywhere. This animal waste gets into the groundwater. Some of these particles can travel miles into the air. There's been, documentaries showing people's houses coated with animal feces that live miles away from these operations. So obviously, like, we're destroying the actual trees, actual planet, actual land to create space for animals, but we're also putting humans into really unfavorable positions where they then can't get out of, because these people now, their property value is so low, nobody wants to live there, and they can't leave because they don't have any money or anywhere to go. So there's so many issues that are tied in with this animal agriculture problem. It just doesn't make sense to continue paying for these products.
Yeah, something else about the hog farms that's and the feces and the cesspools is what happens when they break, and what happens when they overflow, and what happens when it rains, and what happens when there's a hurricane, and what happens to all that feces, and it all runs into the rivers, and it runs into the rivers, and it runs into the ocean, and it's killing the fish, and it's causing the ocean dead zones and the acidification of the oceans. I remember I lived in Houston for 3 years, in Houston, Texas, and I lived. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she lived in Galveston. Are you familiar with Galveston?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just south of Houston. It's a little island, and it's famous for the hurricanes and getting bombarded by hurricanes.
Yep.
I think one of the worst hurricanes in the history of the U.S. I think was hit Galveston, and so anyways, I remember going to Galveston, and I remember going to the water, and I love the beach. I'm from San Diego. Of course I love the beach, right? And so I remember I was like, I want to get in the water. And people are like, don't get in the water. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you see what it looks like? And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty brown. They're like, yeah, it just rained. And like, you shouldn't get in there. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, it just rained. Like, what's the big deal? And they're like, every time it rains, it's very dangerous to go in the water. Nobody goes in the water. They know not to go in the water. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just remember it was as brown as almost as far as I could see. But I didn't know why. I'm just like, don't get in it. And like, okay. I mean, if you live here and you don't want to get in it, heck no, I'm not going to get in the water. But it smelled really bad. It smelled like shit, right? But I didn't know, like, I just thought it came from humans. I'm like, I guess it's us. But it didn't hit me until I was watching a documentary about how the runoff from the farms in the middle of the U.S. So the middle of the U.S. is really the highest density of animal agriculture, right? And so, the dairy farms from Wisconsin and the beef farms all across, Oklahoma, and all the middle of the U.S., right? Yeah. And so that runoff goes all the way down into the ocean. The largest dead zone is in the Gulf of Mexico, right? And so that runoff is killing the ocean and killing all the fish that live in there. They can't breathe. It takes away all the oxygen, and they just die. And it's not seen because it's under the water, and we don't really think that we're affecting it because out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I went down to I don't remember what the name of the hurricane was last year, but it hit eastern North Carolina. And all of those hog farms and chicken farms were underwater, totally inundated. And I flew my drone over it. I have some of the footage on my YouTube page, but it's just shit water everywhere. So disgusting. Like you're saying, that made its way to the East Coast, out to the oceans, and that's you get these algae blooms, and you get all these dead fish up on the shore from factory farm animal waste. It's insane. It's so crazy.
But this is also our drinking water. This is also what we need to survive. I think people don't realize the most precious resource on the entire planet. I mean, it's debatable, oxygen and water. And without those two, nothing happens. Nothing goes on. There is no life. And it's not like we have a lot of fresh water going around. So the need to pollute it, for our taste buds, and the need to pollute it for profit, is just beyond us. So people think that veganism is all about the animals. Yes, that's the definition, and that's what we fight for. But this is as much a human rights issue as much as it is an animal rights issue. It causes more damage to humans, not even including health. That's a whole nother story, and trillions of dollars in health-related care. But not even talking about that, just the pure, like, logical things that you can see and logical things that happen of just precious resources. And that's why it's a human rights issue. You could go boil it down to the workers in the factories and the PTSD that they have, and the murder rates and how high they are in the areas where there's high amounts of slaughterhouses. And
like a lot of the people around the world that are the least well off, that have the least financial resources, are the ones being hit hardest by the increased frequency and increased power of a lot of these storms. I mean, look at the Bahamas, just after this past one, just completely destroyed. Like, who knows when that'll be fixed, or if it'll even be fixed.
Puerto Rico has still not recovered.
Right. Puerto Rico
still not when they will. They're projecting 100 years to get to where they were.
That's
absolutely crazy. But you're right about the ones that are the least well off that are going to be affected the most. They
least well off and had the least part in it normally. Yeah. Their lifestyle, they're not eating meat, cheese, and eggs
double
every
bacon
day.
Cheeseburgers. Yeah,
they're not eating. They're people that have low financial resources are normally eating primarily plants. That's another common thing that you hear argument against veganism is like, oh, veganism is expensive. No, it's not. People in third world nations, I lived in Honduras for a while. They're not eating a ton of meat. They're eating primarily plants because it's a lot cheaper than meat. Same thing, in Africa and India, a lot of vegetarians, people not eating a ton of meat. This whole meat heavy thing exists is a primarily Western thing and exists a lot in part due to government subsidies, which I personally, it sucks because my tax dollars are going to fund an industry that I'm against.
Yeah, I want to touch on something that you said about the least well off. So in the continued rise of the global warming and the melting of the ice caps and the increase in the flooding and all the hurricanes that we talk about, as those things increase, and they will, there's no sign of them slowing down. The two countries that are going to be hit the worst, number one, India is going to have the most damage and the most devastation. Number two is the United States. So those are the two that are going to be hit the most as far as financial and amount of people affected.
The U.S. Yeah. Florida and South Carolina and Georgia. Yeah.
California too. The hurricanes hit those, but I mean the flooding in the middle of the U.S. as well. And the droughts. There's a lot to it for sure of things that affect it. The droughts will be longer, and the floods will be heavier. Every degree Celsius of increase, the atmosphere can hold 10% more water. 10% more water is absolutely crazy, first of all. Second of all, that means that the water is in the air longer. That means it's not on the ground. That means it's not raining. That means it's not where you need it. It's in the atmosphere. The second thing is when it finally does release, it's a 10% more for every degree Celsius. And we've already hit 1 degree Celsius increase since the pre-industrial. So right now, in this moment, we are 10% more water in the atmosphere. So that means the drought are going to be increased. And as that temperature changes, the projection of the rains starts to change. So areas that either got rains and they expected the rains around this time of the year, the yearly monsoons, those are already changing. They're already in different locations. Bangladesh and Nepal and northern India have been hit by some of the worst flooding they've ever seen already. And that's part of the monsoons changing and being heavier. They're not supposed to land there. They're supposed to be elsewhere.
Right.
And so it's pretty crazy. I think the feedback loops, you've heard about feedback loops.
Yeah.
I think that one those are not in the models. So those aren't in the projections. So a feedback loop, like for example, let's say that
basically a point of no return, like a irreversible tipping point.
But even before it's like irreversible, it's just like, for example, the earth heats up, let's say 1 degree Celsius. Well, now things are melting that we didn't even know were there or didn't even affect, like the permafrost in Canada, right? Because that's nearby. So that permafrost is melting, which is releasing carbon dioxide and methane gases. It's also sinking, right? The land, which is not really the worst thing. The worst thing is the gases that are coming out that aren't even factored into the models, the climate models, that show how much is in the atmosphere. And some people say it's fake news and it's not real. And we can measure this stuff. Like these things are measurable. They're not, it's a estimation on what the damage will be like, or when a hurricane will hit, or when a flood will happen, or a drought. But what isn't talked about is there's things that we can easily measure these things. Even the ice, people say, how do you know about the carbon in the ice? You can see it. You can see it.
People have been doing this type of measurements forever. Like this isn't new science. It's people's own guilty conscience at the end of the day, not wanting to recognize what's happening and not wanting to do anything about it, not wanting to change. That's what it is to me at the end of the day. I feel people just not wanting to take any kind of personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not going to just be like everyone else. I'm going to do what's right. And I always say this all the time. I don't know, it's a quote that I saw recently. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. And right is right, even if nobody's doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it rings true to a lot of things that we do. So I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that you want to share that we didn't talk about, or something that we did talk about that you just don't want anyone to forget?
So something that I personally advocate for, and I think I touched on it just a little bit, was just to bring it back to ethics, was speciesism. And I think that's a term that needs to be used more often. People need to talk about it more often, and people need to hear it more often. So speciesism, if you're not familiar, it's just like sexism, racism, or homophobia. It's the assumption of human superiority that has led to the exploitation of non-human animals. And it's discrimination. It's the first form of discrimination that we learn. And peace amongst human beings will never coexist with speciesism. As long as we're mass murdering and massacring animals, we'll do the same type of thing to each other. In addition to all of the environmental devastation that we've talked about, in addition to all of the health implications that it's causing, we can't expect the world to become a better place. We can't expect the world to change if we're not willing to kind of step outside of ourselves and examine our own behavior. And speciesism is at the heart of the climate issue. Speciesism is at the heart of the healthcare crisis. Speciesism is at the heart of the discriminatory battles within our own selves. So I definitely recommend people to acknowledge their speciesist bias and do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, brother. So where can people find you? If people want to see what you're doing, they want to follow your journey, they want to see some of the cool footage that you're shooting and some of the fun activities, where can they find you?
It's my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all the same. It's Skinny Vegan, but the I is a 1 and the A is a 4. And so it's SK1NNYVEG4N. And I'm not going to go super into my plans for next year, but I am going to be taking a significant time away from work. I've been stashing a lot of money, been working a lot this year. And I'm going to be blending my running with my activism. We call it Tractivism. That's going to happen next year. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but that's kind of my plans in the short term, long term, if you will.
Nice. That's super cool. I like that. Kind of like Fiona Oakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You watched that one, Running for Good?
Yeah. Blending her, athletic ability with activism.
Yeah. You seen her documentary?
I haven't seen her documentary, no.
Oh my gosh. It's made by the same creators of Cowspiracy and What the Health.
What's it called?
It's called Running for Good.
Running for Good. Okay.
It's amazing. And one thing I like about it, real quick, I'm not going to spoil it or whatever, but she says that she's like, I don't even like running. I don't like running at all. I'm not even a runner. But she wins like crazy competitions of like long distance. She's like, I don't even like running. I just want to win so that I can speak up for the animals. And she runs an animal sanctuary. Like, That's it. She runs to speak up for her animals. Like, that's literally it. And you look the way she talks and you're like, she's not joking. Like, she's dead serious. And you watch the way she runs, and like her form is bad, and like I don't even know how she does it. Like it's kind of it's really crazy. And she had a crazy issue with her knee when she was young, and like they said she was never going to walk again. And like for her to run in the climates and the terrain she's run in the distances is beyond me. Like I cannot believe it when I watch it. I seriously can't believe the amazing things that she does.
Yeah, if kind of along that, you know, in a similar vein, if you have any kind of, you know, secret talent or something that you're really passionate about outside of environmentalism or animal rights, blend the two. Like use that platform to draw attention to the issue. You know, I've had an idea. I haven't actually acted on it, but you know, starting a Twitch stream and playing video games and trying to, you know, talk to people about animal rights on there. You know, just something silly. If you're, you know, play the guitar, you know, make some songs up about, you know, animal rights. There's so many things that you can do. And again, support everyone and everyone, no matter what they're doing, whether it's disruptions or Twitch streams or running or making music or whatever it is you want to do or that your friends are doing, support them. And do it, and don't wait until there's some perfect time. You know, don't wait until you get this piece of equipment or that piece of equipment, or you feel like, you know, right now is not good. Maybe next month. No, just fucking do it. Just start doing it. You'll get people that will like what you're doing, and you'll get better and you'll grow with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that you say that, and I want you to do that Twitch stream. I want to see that. I'm serious. I know that you're saying you're putting out there, but I would love to see that. I would love to see you on the headset playing the game, and then I would love to see you saying, "Hey, so what do you think about eating animals, or are you vegan, or however you want to start your question?" You could just do it like anonymous for the voiceless style, you know, and have that conversation while they're playing. And I think you could get a lot of good content. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and it's about tackling issues, and there's so many opportunities out there, and it is about trying everything. When I started this podcast, I mean, my really first episode was just on my phone. I just had my phone and an app, and I just talked into the phone and nothing. Right. I didn't have any recording or anything, but then I added a new microphone, and then I added the laptop, and I didn't even know I could do a podcast from someone in the US while I'm in Kuwait. I was like, I can only talk to Kuwaitis. Like, who am I going to talk to? I don't even care. Right. I'm going to start. Yeah. But then someone that was doing a podcast said, "Hey, I want to interview you on a podcast." And he was in Austin, Texas. And I was like, "How's that going to work?" Like,
good.
He's like, "Oh, we'll just do it on the computer." And I was like, "Okay." Yeah. Let's try it. We did it. And I was like, "I like that. That's great." And then I was like, shoot, now I opened up and now I've done, this is probably like my 10th one, like online. So it just opened up the door to more people and things that I didn't think were possible. And even the YouTube, my very first YouTube video was my phone, no stand, recording me, no microphone, horrible lighting. I wasn't even talking loud enough. And I just uploaded it. And what you learn is you watch, because of course you're going to watch. If you're doing your own edits, you're going to watch yourself. You're like, I could do that better. I could improve there. Exactly. The thing I hate about myself when I critique myself right now is I don't know if you've heard it. I'll say, "All right," or "Okay." And I'm just like, don't say that. And I forget about it until I'm doing the editing. I'm like, why am I saying okay? Like,
yeah, there's a few things that I'll say kind of over and over again that when I watch it, I'll, you know, and I should stop saying that or something along those lines. And one of them is like, I'll always say like 100%, you know, like instead of like, I feel you, or I'm totally in agreement. My thing that I always say is like 100%, but you know, maybe I'll just keep it. Like, that's my thing. 100, keep it 100, you know?
Yeah. Keep it 100. All right, great. So we can't end this without talking about your shirt. What does your shirt say?
March to close all slaughterhouses. I got it when I was out in Berkeley, California. at the Animal Liberation Conference. If you're interested in, I'll plug that conference because I think it's probably one of the best things that you can go to learn about activism, get trained on different actions, learn about past nonviolent movements, learn about nonviolence. It's in the end of May in Berkeley, California, where DXC is kind of headquartered. They have a big conference. It's like 10 days long, and it's a mix of trainings and actions. There's always one like mass action at the end of the conference. So this year, a bunch of activists like chained themselves to the entrance of this duck slaughterhouse in Petaluma, California. Some people went in and rescued ducks out of the slaughterhouse. There was just a huge mass vigil out front. But yeah, I bought this shirt while I was out there at the conference. They have an animal rights center that DXC runs there, and they sell shirts and drinks and snacks and everything. And it also serves as kind of like a community hub for meetings and things that they have there. So yeah, look up DXC, look up, what they're doing. And if you're in the USA, that conference that they have every year is a great place to not only learn and train, but also network with other people and meet other people. So I've met a lot of people there and have drawn a lot of inspiration from people that I've met while I was out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, brother. All right. Well, I had a great time with you. I'm glad you took time in such short notice to share your knowledge and the things you're doing. Keep up the great work. I'll definitely be rooting for you along the way. I'll be hopefully be back in the States and I'll get a chance to join you. I'm incredibly eager to join. I remember I had an opportunity to do Anonymous for the Voiceless, the very first one in Tel Aviv. I was on vacation. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then I went and did another one in Bali when I was in Bali. And I was like, I'm going to do this. So I'm all for it. Kuwait is not a place that accepts that. They have a zero tolerance for any disobedience at all. So
even a static demo?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Probably a whole other podcast conversation, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. All right, brother. Well, take care. I'll be looking forward to seeing new stuff soon, and I can't wait.
Yeah, man. Stay hungry for knowledge, not animals. Choose peace.
Yes, absolutely. Have a great one.
Yeah, take care.